No dobra, no to Piotrek, ja tutaj jestem.
Okay. Hi, Matthew. Hi, everyone. What's the weather like in Gdańsk? It's freezing in Białystok, so winter is coming definitely. How is at your place?
Oh, it's sunny, like 20 degrees, and I was on the beach in the morning, so it's great.
So
No,
definitely it's different than here where I am.
no,
By the
it's
way, Matthew,
seems to be
congrats. Okay.
seems like the weather from your place is coming here as well, so just a matter
Okay.
of hours.
There is some justice in the world. By the way, Matthew, congrats on the latest meetup. A few days ago, you organized the second Gdańsk TypeScript meetup. How was it, by the way?
It was very well because like 80 people has signed with Meetup application and Evana application, but 90 came. I don't know why,
Wow.
but it was much better than we expected, and it was very crowded. The place was originally for 60 people, I think, so some of them had to stand or take additional chairs to see the presentation. So, but the third will be in around 15th of December. So I will definitely like follow my LinkedIn account or look on the meetup, Gdańsk TypeScript meetup to follow the next events.
Sounds perfect. So be aware, be prepared, and put on your Christmas jumpers and go to Mateusz meetup. Okay, I don't even know where to start with introducing you. Okay, so maybe I just use some keywords. Okay,
All right.
Let's start. Full stack web dev, DevOps, PHP, Laravel, JavaScript, TypeScript, Node.js, Kunabu, Escola, LMS, Whelms, CTO, creator of the first headless open source LMS built in accordance with the Mac approach. What would you like to add to this?
So the most important keyword here is this LMS and the headless, because this is the topic we are going to talk about today. So
Exactly.
I have nothing. I'm very humble and I have nothing to add.
The world loves humble people. Okay, so today you're going to tell us about the new headless course format designed for eLearning. I'm here all the time, I'll be here all the time, but now the floor is yours. So go ahead.
Okay, so like Peter said, I'm Matthew. I'm CTO at Whelms, and Whelms is the headless open source headless LMS. And LMS is learning management system, and within this software, we mostly. So I initiated, but we as a team worked on the design of new course format of headless course format, and it was a reason for that. And today I would like to talk about those purposes and reasons why we had to design a new headless course format. So like e-learning course structure is very complex topic, and it's very unopinionated. There are no standards in terms of the structure of the content itself, and I will get into it. But before we start, we have to learn about e-learning content granularity. So there are some glossary words I'd like to explain before we start. So in the context here, those are like my own definitions because I had to define those before we start talk about this content structure. So here the course is a shareable independent piece of packet, sequenced interactive multimedia elements that connects with LMS to track user interactivity. And by that, I mean, this is the biggest entity we have in context of eLearning, LMS, and so on. And later on, the packaging is a way of packaging course into one file that can be shareable between LMSs. So we have the course and we need to pack it into one file to send it to another system, so on. I will explain the whole process of packaging later. Importing and exporting is a very important part, because when we create the course, we should be able to export the course and import the course, regardless of what LMS systems we are using. And this is very important for me, because right now in industry, there's something called vendor lock. And basically, you can export and import those courses between the systems without losing some data, like the structure of the course. The asset is a small piece of course content, which is not intended to be consumed alone. And the example of asset is image or video or audio file or PDF or some H5P interactive element, some test, and so on. The resource is a learning resource that can be consumed by a learner to get a specific knowledge or develop a simple competency. Like the synonym here for this would be a lesson or article or topic or module or whatever. This is very implicit, and this might raise some issues in terms of terminology and glossary. Aggregation is a set of resources organized in a specific way, and the synonym is sometimes course, but this is misleading, as course is a bigger entity that gathers all of those terms I'm talking about. And the sequencing is a way to describe sequence of resources with tracking meta descriptions. So basically, in the course, you need to decide what resource go first and what goes at the end and what goes in the middle and what's the order of those. And the current e-learning course format issue is that in most cases we have authoring tool like RISE or I don't know, like the authoring. There are many authoring tools. I don't want to mention what's the most popular one, but basically here you create the course, you click export. The export comes in a zip file or other packages, like 99% this is zip file. Either it's SCORM or CMI5 or any other. And this zip file is imported into LMS. And this zip file contains all of those characteristics I've mentioned on the slides before, like packaging, assets, resources, aggregation, sequencing, and so on. But there's no semantic course content described in any of those popular e-learning formats. And by this, I mean that in this, there is no standard to get to know what's inside the zip in terms of semantic, in terms of logic. So I only know that there's a course inside the zip. If it's SCORM, that it has some XML manifest and it has some starting points that are HTML files, and those HTML files can be anything. There's no standard for that, what's inside HTML file. and there's no semantic in that. So I don't know how many modules there are, how many lessons, sub-lessons, and what's most important, I don't know what kind of content there is. Is there any video? What's the description of the video? What's the attributes? What's the meta attributes of this video? Is there any image? What's the alt attribute of the image, and so on? So those zip packages from those popular formats, they basically focus on how to render, how to launch the course, but they will not tell you what's exactly inside. So here we have a diagram basically of what the course can look like. So we have a course that is divided into modules, lessons, and sub-lessons, and each lesson or sub-lesson can contain some resources like video, PDF, or rich text, interactive elements. And within SCORM or any other formats, this data is lost once you are exporting this, once you press the export to SCORM package or to other package from authoring tool, and then this is lost. So, so let's talk about what is headless, because we are going into the headless approach here, and let's go with the description. So there is no one official headless description, which is very problematic, because some parties, some software providers, they say that their software is headless, but it can mean totally different things. So I have found this descriptions to be very good, and it's taken from, as far as I remember, Vue Storefront website. And it says that headless architecture is a software development concept that separates the front-end user interface, UI, from the backend business logic layer of the website. So basically in application, we have business logic, we have visual user interface logic, and we have database, like data itself. So the headless basically is kind of software that separates explicitly those layers. And I found the analogy in ebooks with formats. So I'm hoping most of us, most of people who are listening or watching, had at least once in a lifetime ebook in their hands, and you know there are like many formats. You can import the book to book reader, and we have fixed layer formats and reflow label formats. So the PDF is fixed layer format. So in PDF, you know exactly how many pages there are. Everything is pixel perfect on every device. The content from the PDF will look exactly the same. And you cannot split this into, you cannot like increase or decrease the text size. You cannot change the font variant, and so on and so on. Basically, this is fixed. This is come as delivered, and basically you cannot change anything. So there is no separation between the content, the texts, the images, and everything that's inside the PDF from the visuals. So this is all of the layers here are glued together, and they cannot be split. There are, of course, there are some converters that can convert PDF to MOBI or EPUB format, but do not expect anything decent. And in like in contrast to this kind of format, and PDF is great format basically. I cannot say a bad word about PDF, but in contrast to fixed layer formats, we have reflow-able formats, and basically those formats are the ones that separates the content from visuals. So when you import a MOBI or EPUB book to your reader, basically you get rendered how device is set by you or by default setup, and you can increase or decrease size depending on the device size. The number of pages can vary. When you increase the text size, the number of pages will increase. When you decrease, the number will decrease as well, and so on and so on. So here we have explicit separation between visuals and text. In those MOBI and EPUB formats, basically, there is no or only a little information about visuals. So and the visuals are rendered by ebook, and each ebook can render this differently, but the essence is to read the book, to have the content, not to have everything pixel perfect as a designer or publisher wanted to be. So this is, I think, the easiest analogy I could find with Headless and those kind of formats. And except of that, there are some good software design principles, and one of this principle is separation of concerns, and this means that we should that each application should be separated into modules, layers, encapsulated, and the roles of each component should be independent of one another. So, like here we have in PDF, we have those layers together as one piece, and in MOBI or EPUB we have only content, no visuals. So we have the separation of concerns here, basically delivered. And headless web application or any headless application, here I mentioned headless web application because basically LMS works in web content mostly, or they communicate through HTTP, like internet protocols. So headless applications basically implementation of this separation of concern principle, and basically it does decouple front end and back end. And front end is generally stuff we see through browser, and the backend is the stuff we don't see. So there's the magic that happens on the server in the background that users do not see when they browse websites or use web applications. And the other good software principle is KISS, and this is abbreviation of keep it simple, stupid, and it states that most systems work best if they are kept simple rather than made complicated, and most time over-complicated, over-engineered, and so on and so on. And those formats, because of some technological depth and because of the time they were designed, they were very over-complicated, and right now, and they haven't aged well. So right now, those formats do not follow this KISS principle. And the diagram here basically shows that effectiveness goes with simplicity in this order. So what are the limitations of current standards that headless format can improve? So, like I mentioned, separation of concern. The new headless format can define the structure of the course that old formats doesn't do at all. The presentation data and logic layers are decoupled. That's basically the definition of headless. Courses can be played offline as communication with server is not required all the time. This is something new in terms of SCORM packages or any other packages. And what's very important is that the new presentation methods and design can be easily added without making changes to other layers. So for example, if we have a course that was designed 10 years ago in SCORM, it cannot be easily presented on the mobile device or even on a smartwatch or Internet of Things like smart fridge or smart microwave or whatever, because this format is closed and it cannot be delivered. There's no separation of concerns, and we cannot basically get into the data itself. We have to render everything at once, and that's impossible for those devices. So when we have this decoupled structure, it's easy to add new presentation methods. And that's important also because there might be some new presentation methods that we don't know they will exist in future, but with following those design principles, we make this future proof. So the future technology will be able to consume our content without any problems. So there are some. Here is a comparison of this standards here with SCORM, and the next the improved SCORM, which is called CMI5. And I will not, this is very specific, I'm showing this, but I will not get into details here. In the last slide, I will give you a link to the paper I wrote that explained this in details. So here I came, so like the title of the presentation is developing new e-learning headless course format, and I came to find to discover this format, and I called it Ulam. And Ulam is after the Stanisław Ulam, who was a Polish-American scientist in fields of mathematics and nuclear physics. He's one of my personal heroes. But Ulam is version of universal learning asynchronous model. So, and this is the format we've created. This is the format that WELMS is using, and it's described in a paper. But in the next slides, I will tell you what were the principles, what were the goals of this format to be created. So I think I've told this separation of layers at least 10 times already, but the application layer, as I mentioned before, is user interface, business logic, and data. So here we basically cut those two layers and only remain the data. So so the new format, the Ulam format, follows the separation of concern designs principle. And the another principle is that to use JSON format instead of XML, because when SCORM was published, JSON format didn't even exist back then, but and XML was the only popular format that could handle the needs of this structure course. But right now, the JSON is much more popular. I can't tell you it's better or not. It's not my agenda to tell you that. But the JSON comes from JavaScript, and we are talking mostly about JavaScript or TypeScript applications, the front-end applications, and this is the standard format that applications in web context, they communicate within this format. That's how it works. And basically XML is fine, but the JSON is much popular and easier to implement and easier to understand even without like parsing it, just reading it. So like I mentioned, the easy implementation. SCORM was very complicated, over-engineered, and seems like over-engineered. Back then, it was very fresh and nice. Back then, it was a good design, but it didn't age well, and it's very popular. And the XIPI and CMI5 was approach of SCORM authors to solve some kind of to solve the issues that SCORM have, and to evolve the format, to create some new like basically to have a better new format. And here's this is a diagram from XIPI website from 2 years ago, just 4 years after the CMI5 was published. And it says the title is An Exciting Time to Watch XIPI and CMI5 Adoption Numbers. And those numbers are, the CMI5 is 0.2%, and the XIPI is 1.4. So I would expect 4 years after the published to have at least 10%, but I don't know, maybe right now it's 2%. And so basically this means that those formats are still very hard to implement and very complex. And my assumption was that the new format was must be easy to implement and encouraging for people to use it without any without reading like 150 pages of implementation details. And the CMI5, I've read the documentation 3 times, and I still don't get it, some of the details. And there's the project called Catapult project, just to validate those CMI5 integration files. And it's still, as far as I checked, it's still work in progress. So the tooling and the implementation, it's not straightforward. And I want the new format to be implemented. And this is Bernard Meyer, and he's responsible for creating one of the most important principles in object-oriented programming called open-close principle, which means that software entities should be open for extension but closed for modifications. And so basically, my new format, the OLAM format, should be simple but open for extensions. So I should be able to implement new features without changing the old ones, without hacking the core, without changing the source codes, and without any special approach to that. So I should be able to just do this by design. And those other formats, they do not have this kind of entry point that allows us for plugins for extensions. it should be, the new format should be standalone. So if we follow the design of the format, it should be played by any standalone player without any external services, and also it should be available offline. Here we have this dinosaur game everybody knows, who was traveling with Polish rail. Yeah, so this progressive web apps allows us, once we at least once we open the website or open the application with our device, either laptop or standalone computer or mobile, it will download all of the assets that are marked as to be download on our machine. And again, if we will come to the website, to the application again, and the application or the browser will detect that there is no internet, it will check if it has the old version, and it will serve the old version, which is fully functional. So we can have offline courses without any big problems in 2022. And of course, headless. So the course itself doesn't know how it will be displayed for a student, for any person that will consume the content. Yeah, that's the definition of headless. And I feel bad because I was only talking about SCORM or XIPI or CMA5 in bad words, or like those are very bad standards and so on and so on. But there are some good design standards. There are some good parts taken from those formats, like packaging in zip file, importing and exporting in zip, sequencing from SCORM, the XIPI, the usage of JSON format for the events, the XIPI statements. This seems to be a great idea as well. The learning record store is a very good idea. And from CMI5, just launch method and move on rules and so on and so on. Those are very specific. I cannot go into the specific of those because we don't have time. And as I mentioned, I don't fully understand that. Just kidding. Those three I do understand, but there are some nuances I don't understand. And levels of granularity. So here we have, so in the course, in the slide before, one of the first slides, I showed something similar, but here we have implementation of this kind of granularity, of course. And so we have course, and the course is divided into lessons, and then the lessons are divided into topics. But the lesson can have sub-lessons and so on and so on. There's unlimited level of nesting. And in CMI5, it was very similar. It has course and block, and AU. In SCORM, it has organization, item. And here I've called them course, lessons, topics, but those are just the words can be changed. So if I'll check, I'll replace the lessons with block and AU, we have the same structure as CMI5. But so the course must have at least one lesson, and each lesson can have child lessons, and each lesson must have at least one topic to be meaningful. And the packaging, so OLAM would package itself similar to SCORM and CMI5. So basically, it will be when you click the export, the zip file will be created, and when you click import, you can import the zip file. The manifest inside those two have the manifest in XML. the OLAM default manifest is JSON. And yeah, so import and export. So the LMS should be able to parse the package, copy the files, and so on and so on. And like I've mentioned, and front-end implementation. This is very important. So the OLAM course are front-end agnostic. They don't know anything about the front-end. So the format does not describe how it will be displayed for the end user. And the player should follow the CMI5 launch mode and all of the those 9 XAPI verbs described in the format. So basically, this means that there is a launch procedure that connects with learning record store. It's not essential, but once you have a learning record store, it's nice to collect the data of users' interactions. And so once the front-end application retrieves the OLAM content from the LMS endpoint, it should parse it and create a tree of lessons and topics. And here also I show on the diagram, it's called, I am very sorry because I forgot to add the description of this image from which website it was taken. I haven't created this diagram, but this is examples of headless CMS, but the idea is the same. So we have a backend, we have the API. Here in the middle, we have a database, which is served through backend through API on the different devices. We have this, we have smartwatch, we have Alexa, we have some smart car, and we have computers. And this desktop computer can be served in many ways. And it means that it can be served by front-end agnostic way. So here we have the logos of 3 popular front-end frameworks, React, Vue, and Angular. And the OLAM, the course, the structure has no idea how it will be rendered. Will it be rendered by React on a laptop, or will it be rendered by Alexa, or by smartwatch, or by car, or by any other crazy device? And the conclusions of that. So the new format should be able to prevent and solve issues that occur during normal e-learning system lifespan. OLAM format is easy to use, implement, future-proof, and it's designed with extensions and plugins in mind. Also, it's open source, it's free to use, hopefully it's well explained and described in the paper. And I'm working right now on some validation tools to check the, of course, open source and free to use, and to check whether the course we have in OLAM format is well structured. So as I mentioned, there's I've written the paper about it. Here it's QR code for this for the paper. It's hosted on GitHub, like all of our software components is hosted on GitHub. So you can grab this paper. There are specific implementations. There are specific JSON examples, files, JSON schema to test whether the manifest JSON is fine or not, and so on and so on. Everything is there. And even if you have some, if you want to comment or propose some changes to the format, you can just create a merge request and send it to the verification. So if you just I think if you just write Ulam headless format in the Google or DuckDuckGo or any other search engine, it should appear as the first place because it's very specific query. And that would be all for today. Thank you for your attention. Here are the details of how to get in touch if you have any questions, and maybe you have any questions right now.
We have two questions. I will show you them. What are the practical applications of this system you told us about? Practical applications.
So I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but the practical applications that we have implementation of the system, and it's one of the fastest course I've ever seen on any course or any e-learning platform, and it's working really fast. And we have implementation of different front ends, different skins like themes on different domains that are attached to the same source of truth, the same API. So we have one course, we have one database of courses, and we have many domains that shows this in a different way. Also, the other approach is that if we have this API, we don't need any server to host the applications, because this will be just like a single page application. It's just a package of HTML and JavaScript file. They do connect to the API, but you don't need to handle any server-side component for the front-end application. And in terms of costs and in terms of scalability, it's a big deal.
Okay, Matthew, and how would you respond to this question? Why do I want to choose the headless LMS over the standard one?
That's a business question. I'm a technical person. No, but the real answer is that from technical point of view, those are all of the slides I showed you. So it's the separation of concern, the keep it simple, the solid principles. They basically shows how to create a system that has less technical depth than other systems, and it's easier to maintain and easier to extend or to add some new features, and to have also it's very important in terms of delivering the software that you don't need to have one team who is responsible for everything. And here like if we have WordPress website or Moodle LMS, then to have anything done within Moodle, we need a Moodle expert, and the Moodle has a special front-end syntax template engine. I forgot the name of it, but here if we have API as a single source of truth, we can deliver the e-learning experience for any team that knows any front-end technology. It's just a matter of consuming the API. Also, this refers also not just for the end user to consume the content, but also for teachers and content creators, the industry designer, the course designers, and so on. They also can create their own tools upon this API, and they are not vendor locked with one tool.
Thank you. And the third question, what is the biggest advantage of this product? Let's say it's product, this format. Your personal opinion, Matthew.
Yes, so it's not product, it's a format. And the biggest is that it focus on the content. It focus on the not in contrast to other formats. It focus on the content, on the structure of the course. You can easily grab the data about the video, the URL to the video, the URL to the subtitles of the video, and do it what you want with that. Basically, without any hacking or without any web scrapping or anything like that. It's an open format for open-minded people.
Okay, thank you. If any one of you want to talk more with Matthew, you have his address here displayed and his website, or you can just visit our tech website. Our tech website, meaning this one, tech.whelms.io, and you can read about Matthew's philosophy of building this format and the tool, the LMS based on this format, and you can make an appointment with Matthew for a video call or connect with him on LinkedIn. So feel free to do it, to read it, to make an appointment. Thank you for watching. It was a pleasure to be here with you, Matthew. Thank you. After what you said, I think I'm a junior expert on the topic.
Nice. Thanks.
Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you to all of the watching people, and see you next time.
Bye.